So a couple questions like logistically. So you were basically running or operating two businesses at the same time, and two very different businesses. I mean, they complement each other, but they're very different. Software company is very different than a law firm.
Yes. I would say it was actually three. Three different businesses. Yeah.
What was the third? Is that still going?
That one is not a scaled business. It's a passion project. It's just its own business. So I have a community for legal professionals that do things differently. So it's a small community for legal professionals, but that was my small one.
Running one business is enough. How do you do two or three? How do you manage it? I mean, how did you do that? And I'm I'm curious. How did you manage
almost burning out. I mean, if we're being honest, it was too much. I am a high achiever. My strengths, one of my top fives is high achiever, learner, belief, input, strategic. I might have forgotten one, whatever, but I can push through. That is not a healthy way of operating, but I can. And I think in the beginning, I don't identify myself as a lawyer, I need to hold that title. What I really loved, and I came to this conclusion too, as I was working through kind of wrapping up the firm, that I love the business side. I love the ops. I love the watching my operational idea come to fruition. It was fun, right? And then I made it work. But doing it was a lot, right?
Welcome to the Founding Partner Podcast. Join your host, Jonathan Hawkins, as we explore the fascinating stories of successful law firm founders. We'll uncover their beginnings, triumph over challenges, and practice growth. Whether you aspire to launch your own firm, have an entrepreneurial spirit, or are just curious about the legal business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Founding Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Hawkins. This is a podcast where we get to interview founding attorneys and other cool people that are no longer necessarily practicing law very much, like today's guest, Kimberly Bennett, who, if you've been in this world for a while, you know who she is, but she is one of the pioneers of subscription-based billing for legal services. Which is a topic that I personally am very, very interested in. So I am excited to talk to Kimberly today about that and some other things, what she's up to today, which is, like I sort of mentioned, is maybe not all law. So Kimberly, welcome to the show. Why don't you briefly introduce yourself and we'll dive in.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. So Kimberly Bennett, CEO and co-founder now of Fidu. It is the complete client experience platform to help legal teams sell, deliver, and scale subscription and flat fee legal services. So for many years, I was a practicing attorney for about 18, still licensed to practice. But and along the way, I learned a lot. I started in-house, then went out on my own. I came out before the market crashed and learned a lot and really hated hourly billing. And so fast forward to a couple of years ago, I was still running my subscription-based practice, and then Fidu became a possibility and an opportunity. And now today, that's kind of what I do. But practiced for a long time, have ran a subscription and flat fee practice between the two up to 15 years and virtual the entire time. So my entire career has basically been this model. And so it's exciting to be shifting to help other legal professionals do the exact same thing.
Well, there's a lot that I want to talk about today. So Fidu for sure, but I think, we have to sort of take through the journey to get where you are today, because that's pretty much where it led you to Fidu, I think. But so you were virtual before everybody had to be. So you were ready back.
I was ready.
So
that's right.
Yeah, so that's good. So let's briefly go through. So after law school, take us sort of through some of the things you did before you started your law firm.
Yeah, so I was fun fact, a JD PhD student. I went to Villanova Law at the time. We had a dual degree in clinical psychology and law school. So I was in law school for a very long time. And I actually got out a year early because it was getting on to be too long. But I came out in 2007, market crashed 2008. But when I came out, because I was in that dual degree, getting a law firm job was really hard, and if not impossible. And so I ended up going to a company. And so I worked for a company for many years, well, several years, not many, I shouldn't say that, for the first couple of years of my practicing, and which I think was a blessing because it allowed me to see just a different way of practicing. I didn't go into firm life. I went to company life, and we just operate much differently than firm life. And so when the market crashed and I needed to grow and I went out on my own, then I tried to emulate what I heard was the right way. And I just realized that I just hated it. So kind of I did start in corporate America, Then after market crash, went out on my own and have since been on my own with, things in between. So I've worked in other companies in between, but I've always had that practice to build and scale and just learned a lot along the way of what I didn't like. And that led me to getting to a subscription law firm. So,
I talked to a lot of people and then my own experience. A lot of times where you end up is eliminating the things you don't like, and then you end up in a place that you're like, okay, this isn't that bad.
Yep.
But, working in corporate America, you got to bypass the billable hours.
100%. So I think that, my main claim to fame is how much I hate the billable hour, probably outside of subscription legal services. And so I've talked about that for many years. And I didn't come out of law school and go into my legal career billing by the hour at all. Did we care about where we were billing the units to? Sure, but it wasn't the same way you bill out in a firm. And so having to go back and do that, I just found it inefficient and ineffective. I was still working with businesses. Actually, I was also people, but when I worked with individuals, it didn't work because they never understood what the hell the bill was going to be. And then for me, I was not either good at tracking time, I wasn't good at communicating how much it was going to cost because I don't think I really thought that far through. I was still a young attorney. So you're right, it definitely built a practice that was eliminating the things I hated to focus on the things that I liked and how I best showed up.
And so when you did eventually, I guess, start your firm, how long did it take you with this experimentation to say, all right, we're going to do subscription? And then, because I'm interested in it, I've tested it. We'll get into some of the questions I have on that, but others maybe have tested it, but they're scared to jump in. So how did you make the switch? Did you just burn the boats and go all in, or was it sort of a gradual thing?
Yeah, I burned the boats and went all in on flat fees first because for me, it looked like the reason I burned the boat was because I wasn't getting paid. And I thought, oh, this doesn't work, right? I had a couple of family law clients that stopped paying, and it was at the time, at least for my experience, we weren't let out of cases, and which meant you're billing nothing, you're billing to the abyss, and you still have to support, and you still have a license that you want to manage and maintain, and you have bills. And I thought, this can't be how this is meant to work. And so I always say it's about probably 6 figures because it went on for years. Didn't get out. I stopped tracking because I didn't think that was good for my mental health or for the maintenance of my license. But that was the kind of straw. And it wasn't that long. So I went out probably within a year of doing hourly, like, oh, this isn't it. Because I did what people said. Get a retainer. It wasn't enough. I know that now. But get a retainer, bill against a retainer, bill the client. Okay, did all those good things, and then the client stopped paying, and that didn't work. So I literally ripped the Band-Aid off of hourly completely. I was like, it didn't matter. Nope, I'm just going to give you a price. Might be a wrong price, but I'm going to get paid that price or I'm not starting. And that felt like a much better way. And then I transitioned to subscriptions because essentially what I didn't like about flat fee was the ebbs and flows. I didn't like the you found it and then you were done, or clients came back for you for questions, or I just wanted to do a little bit more. I wanted to workshop with them. And I was trying to wrap my brain around what that looked like. And I think what I thought back to was, okay, when I worked in a company, I just got paid. So I literally pitched a client. The story is I pitched a client $500 a month. Like, hey, it was everything. It was a stupid price. I know that now, of course, for many reasons. But it was a great price because it led me to where I am today. And I just said, hey, what if it looked like for $500, I just did these things? They kind of wanted me to show up as a lawyer in this particular capacity. And I was like, sure, okay, let me do it. And that led me to saying, oh, well, if they could just pay me and I can do things, I can build around that. And I just looked at what other tech tools were doing, what other industries were doing. And I thought, well, why can't I do the same thing? And that's kind of where it started.
A couple of things you mentioned there. So it's the unintentional pro bono work, which is just the worst kind of pro bono work out there.
Yes, the unintentional.
And then, the other thing is you just got to start somewhere. You just got to try it. And then, you're probably going to, your experiment's probably going to fail, but you learn from it, and then you can slowly sort of iterate from there. So you mentioned you were doing some family law work. So I guess also you probably pivoted away from that. So, part of my thoughts or my, the analysis or whatever on subscription is, you can't do everything. So you got to sort of figure out what your lanes are first, because, if I'm going to do a subscription for family law and a subscription for, real estate and a subscription for this, there's no way I'm going to be able to figure it all out. So how did you decide, all right, this is what my lane's going to be? How did you figure that out first?
Yeah, I I worked in traditional labor starting my career, so I went back to business. I thought, and that particular client that I pitched was a business client, so I thought, okay, what did that look like working in business? It was just, what did I have training in? What did I feel comfortable in? What was I willing to commit and invest time into? It wasn't like it was, I took a million, I didn't take a million years to make the decision. I just decided what made the most sense at that time and just moved forward with it. And that's kind of how I started, because I had training in it anyway. I was taking CLEs and workshops, and I was already an entrepreneur anyway. So my life was around business enough. So that's how it started. And I do agree, when you are thinking about a subscription, while they work in many practice areas, there's probably very few that it doesn't work in. When you're starting out, if you do all the things, it's just overwhelming. It's just too much. It's just a lot of decision fatigue at the front end when you really just want to get it out and test it. And so I think the best thing for me was that I just pitched the client there wasn't any thought to it other than, you pay me $500 a month and let's see what happens. It was just, I wanted consistency. So if you start simple, you can always scale from there, right? And that's how I approached it. Just finding what made sense for me at that moment, thinking about what I was willing to show up for, and then honestly just my commitment to not wanting to bill by the hour ever again. So I had to figure out a way.
So I've heard of some folks out there that are doing, quote, subscriptions, but it's sort of like you'll get up to 5 hours of legal work a month and this, that, and the other. And in my view, I mean, I guess it can work, but in my view, it's sort of, you're still tracking your hours, and is there a rollover? How do you figure it out? And then do they get mad if they didn't use all of it? So what's your view on sort of how to design the subscription?
Yeah. So first I want to because I've been told sometimes, Kim, you're a little too strong on it. So I'll say this. I think it's great that you're on the journey. If you're doing that, you're on the journey. You're on the path. That is not a subscription though. It's repackaged hourly. But you're on the journey. So you're thinking about, how do I show up differently? How do I package this in a way that is communicating a bit more to the client? But the idea of a subscription is getting out of trading time for money. So at its core, you shouldn't be saying, hey, I'm doing X amount of hours for X amount of month, because you're really trying to say, I'm trying to help you go along a journey, and and it could take 10 to 20 months. I don't know, right? Like, things could happen, but we understand what you're looking to achieve. And these are the things we do month after month with some add-ons as needed to help you achieve that thing. That's really what a subscription is about. So it's a set of services or products for a particular customer or client for a defined interval for a recurring flat fee. So if you do a flat fee today, you could do a subscription, but it's meant to be more like a flat fee month after month, quarter after quarter, right? More scoped, clearer, not tied to the hours, tied to big goals, no guarantees, but outcomes, right? Thinking through what the client wants. So that's what I would say. Repackaged hourly is repackaged hourly, even if you put it under what we think is a subscription. And moving to a subscription looks like really thinking about scoped, timeline, defined a set of services that can repeat, but that are about helping the client get advice and then take action.
Okay, so another question about design of the subscription. So I imagine there's a number of ways you can go at it. So, one would be, this is my service, you take it or leave it, and you just offer that to everybody. Another might be, well, I've got these 3 levels, you can pick one of them. Another approach might be, it depends on what this individual client wants, and we can design it for that individual client. I guess first question is sort of, what approach did you sort of settle in your firm? And as you consult with and teach other lawyers how to do it, what advice do you have on those different types of methods?
Yeah, I probably in the beginning, I was thinking about one particular client. So if I'm thinking truly at that moment, it was probably designed for that particular client. Would I do that again in the future? And if that's how I built it? No. But I think if you want bespoke subscription services, then that's what you're saying, right? You're like, every client that comes in, I'm going to make it very bespoke. But if you're going to make it bespoke, at the core, you should still have standards and systems and processes, because if you don't, bespoke becomes unwieldy. And how do you keep it within a defined, delivery parameters? And I think what we need to do in legal is, I was just talking about this earlier, a lot of us feel that what we do is so special that no one can replicate it. I push back a lot on that. you should be able to replicate what you do. Doesn't mean the outcome's going to be the same, but we all understood they're like, what's the prima facie elements of a particular, what's murder or whatever. When we learn that, there are things, and it's kind of the same idea. So I would say, like, ideally you want to have standard way of delivery. There could be some flexibility in the design, but let that be things that are added on. But the way you design, to me, the best type of subscription is you understand who your client is, and then you understand what the client's goals are, and then you're designing to help the client achieve that goal. The goal could be adopting a child, the goal could be having a happy life post-divorce. The goal is not divorce. The goal is happy life post-divorce, right? The goal could be getting my brand on shelves. It's not getting the trademark. Like, who cares? They want their brand on shelves, right? It could be, if you're in immigration, right, being able to, achieve whatever, I know that we're in this world right now, but achieve a certain economic freedom for your family by bringing them to United States. Okay, that's what it is. And there are things that we do as legal professionals to help them along that journey. So you're designing the subscription for what the client's journey is and what they're looking to do. And then you create services to support that. And that, to me, doesn't have to be bespoke all the time, because you're serving a certain type of client over and over again. And that's what I think would be the best. So I always recommend, when you're first starting out, one subscription that you launch, at least, that you're pitching, and designing specifically for a client. Because if you feel like it's hard to sell, it's probably because you haven't designed it for the particular client. You're just designing it for anyone to try to pick up a subscription.
So yeah, I want to talk about selling it here in a second, but very interested in that, because I'll talk about myself in a minute. But so let's talk about, like, scope. So, a big issue with any flat fee or script, whatever, is scope creep, the scope creep issue. So what strategies did you have, or do you recommend for folks when you say, all right, these are the services in the subscription, this is the price? Because let's say it's a business client. I mean, there's all sorts of things you could do for them that could fall outside the scope. So how do you maintain or try to be very careful on the scope creep, so you're not all of a sudden, you wake up 2 weeks later and you're giving them way more than you expected?
Yeah. So I'll do a shameless plug in that we're doing a free flat fee series this entire summer that we go through a lot of these topics. So definitely check it out. Maybe we'll drop it. It's at fidulegal.com/demo. You'll get directed to it. But you need to have defined what's included and what's not. I think the way you avoid scope creep is to communicate what is included and what's not at the outset and ongoing. You really have to be very clear with the client and have an out lever, right? So you need to, one of the things, like, I use in language is I tell clients, I like to use the language of projects. That's what we talk about at Fidu with our customers. Are you going to activate a new project? When I'm coaching someone, we talk about using this language. But, like, what's the language you use in your practice that helps the client know they need to pay more? That's essentially what you're saying. And you say, these are the things that are included. If something else happens, you might have to do X. Have a name for the X. Start a new project, start a new matter. Don't use matter. It's like the worst word we can use. Like, no client understands that. But, like, I think project makes the most sense. We might now have the new task that we have to do. Whatever's the word, right? That feels right. And have that and talk about that. Identify what examples look like, and then consistently say it, right? Not in a way to hound the client, but because people will forget if they're coming to you in high anxiety, even if it's good anxiety or really negative anxiety, like, they're coming to you at a place where, like, things are going racing. And so when you start settling into the work, they're going to forget everything you said. So it's on you to continue to repeat it. But that means in your agreements, it should say what's included and what's not. That means you want to have a timeline of, like, how long do you expect it to take? And when it goes outside of that, what happens? So we all know the, like, standard way of something should deliver or should progress. And when it's outside of that standard, have a what if scenario and workshop some of them. You're not going to have every single scenario, but you say to the client, listen, if we are getting to a place that is outside of what we discussed, then we're going to have another conversation so you can decide on what makes the most sense for you, right? Like, I think I just am ultra transparent, and that's my goal, and that's what I recommend, to be ultra transparent with your clients. And when you don't bill by the hour, you should be able to say that, because you have designed what you need to do to get to the end goal. And I think that's when it comes back to, it's like, how do you avoid scope creep? You have processes, you have systems, you have standards, you have templates, and then you understand what it takes to get something to the end point. And if you're going off of track, you have to ask yourself, is it you or is it the client? If it's you, you eat that because that's your fault. If it's the client, then you should have the communication strategies ready to employ as needed and not at the last minute, but you can start seeing about midway that you're going off track, then you start having those conversations as soon as you start seeing it.
Yeah, I think the key is for the lawyers, know yourself, because it's very easy to say, I'll just do this one extra thing. I'll just do it. I'll just do and then all of a sudden you've done 20 extra things. You're like, oh my God, I should have just.
Yep. And what I say too is, if you're that, I'm a giver person, so I do that, but I design for that, right? So I design to be a giver. So if you know that's how you show up with your client and they're going to need 1 or 2 to 3 extra things and you're just going to do that, well, your pricing should reflect that. And then you do it without worrying, right? But then you have your out. So like you're willing to do those extra things. If the client didn't need it, it could be a win for you, or you can bonus the client with something. So I think a lot of this is being intentional about how you design any of your flat fees and or subscriptions, to recognize how you and your team, if you're solo, how you show up, you and your team, how you and your team show up, right? Or what the client philosophy is of the business. Design for it. Because if you have no buffer to be a giver in your pricing, you're always going to be underpriced because you're always going to give anyway.
I like that. I like that. All right, so let's switch to selling the subscription, marketing and selling the thing. So, I represent lawyers in a variety of contexts, and I've offered subscription, and I have found there are some that are open to it. There are some that are they're like, I hate subscriptions, I'll never do it. And then there's a huge chunk in the middle. It's just a normal curve. And so, personally, I'm like this feature, which doesn't sell it. You got to think about value. What's the value proposition? What are the benefits? So how did you and how do you recommend the people you consult with sell it to clients?
Well, you said the biggest thing, which is like the benefit versus feature. A lot of people sell like the document review. No one cares. The trademark application. No one cares. The filing a court document. Again, no one cares. That's like not what they're there. They understand that is a means to the goal, but they want to hear about the goal and how you're helping them emotionally. You're helping them move through, help them achieve their goals, make it fit into a larger picture of kind of where they are today and where they want to go to. But I think before you can do any of that, you have to commit to the model. Because the biggest thing I find that why people can't sell it is they actually haven't committed to the model. And it shows up in their business model. It shows up how they talk about it. It shows up their confidence and commitment to it. So if a client says, well, I would rather bill by the hour, okay, fine. Well, then why would they select the thing that you've designed better if you have that out path for them, right? So I think if you want to do this, and probably what helped me in the beginning to sell flat fees and subscriptions, that there was no other alternative. There was nothing else. So then I am not the right fit for you. And that is something we have to be comfortable with, right? When we're selling, being comfortable with not every client is the right client for you. But if you want to design a business in a certain way, you want to lead with certain levels of profitability, you want to have access to certain things, then you design for it in a particular way to allow for you to show up for your clients. So first thing I'm going to say is you got to commit to the model. So I really do think if you want to move to subscriptions, but you're an hourly today, move to flat fees. Rip off the Band-Aid, move to flat fees. Commit to that. You can have very high flat fees. They work, but commit to it. That's the only way you can work with me, right? And then once clients start paying flat fee, you will get comfortable then, okay, let me think about all those extra questions you just asked me that were out of scope. Time to put you in a subscription so you could just ask me as you need to in my designed packaged way. So if you're on the path and you want to do it, rip off the Band-Aid, go to flat fee, and then move to subscription. And then how do you sell it? It's really thinking about the benefits. It's talking about making sure you're selling the thing that makes sense for where they are today and then selling the path of where they need to go. So a lot of people only focus on the immediate now. A subscription is not only about the immediate now, it's also about the future. So you want to sell the future, but focus on them executing on the now, and then how it's out of transaction and into relationships. So the other part of a subscription business is we are there to support you and ideate. So we're there to provide ongoing strategic advice. It doesn't mean it always has to be things you're going to take action on. And so if you design your subscription in a way that is priced at $100 or $10,000, $20,000, they all work. You can provide this ongoing supportive advice at how you deliver that advice, a webinar, one-to-one call, via message, whatever. That's kind of where the pricing changes, but that's what you want to talk to. I'm there to support you. I'm there to help you ideate. Before you make the decision, give us a call. So you want to talk about helping the client move through their big process, and then make sure you're committed and make sure like your funnel makes sense. A lot of law firms' funnels don't make sense, right? You're like, you sell everything outside of the subscription. Of course, they're never going to select the subscription. So that's a lot of like little tidbits in there. Hopefully that.
No, that's really helpful, and I like the switch to flat fees first. Mm-hmm. Get used to that. I mean, I'm sure you can go from hourly straight to subscription, but you gotta commit, baby. You gotta go on.
Yes, I think if you want hourly to subscription, you have to commit to flat fees, because a subscription is a flat fee on steroids, right? So that's why I'm saying you don't have to call it subscription yet, but you have to rip off the band. What I find at any of my consulting clients. So in Fidu, clearly I have a platform that helps lawyers do this. We also actually help you. You can answer questions, and we build an entire subscription for you in platform or flat fee. But when I'm working with my private clients and I'm coaching, consulting with them, what I find is those that still do hourly, some of their clients backdoor to hourly, and they don't want to do hourly, but they find themselves still doing it because that's how that client will pay them. Well, the client's going to pay you anyway. You're just giving them an out. They liked you, right? It's just, well, this is how we show up. So what makes sense? What would make you feel comfortable, client? What's the flat fee number? What's the scope? What's the timeline? What's the time frame that it includes? You can meet their needs without you having to tie it to time too. So rip that Band-Aid off of hourly, y'all. Stop billing money.
Just do it. So, I do want to move to Fidu, but before we do that, another, this is more of a thing in the software SaaS world, and that's the concept of churn. And so, which I'm sure you know well. And so for those out there that don't know it, churn is basically the folks that you lose every month. And so, people say in the subscription, if they're not using it, then they don't think there's value, and then they're going to say, I'm going to quit. So part of keeping people from churning off your subscription is you got to constantly get them to, quote, use it and see the value. So from a lawyer's perspective, how do you continually deliver that value to the client so they see it, and then you don't have the churn, or you lower your churn?
Yeah, okay. Shameless plug, that's what Fidu is there to do. But what are you trying to do? You're trying to provide them access to, none of us like to pick your brain maybe word, but that's kind of the idea. Access to getting ongoing support without you always having to be live and available for them. That doesn't look like you have to be on calls all the time. That doesn't look like you can provide monthly webinars that are pre-recorded that help the client answer particular questions, top of mind things. You can provide, briefs of every month. I wouldn't call it a brief, but I'm going to call it a brief for our purposes, but like an overview of what's happening. You can send ongoing messages. The idea of this is you want ongoing check-ins. If you're moving to subscriptions, you're moving to a relationship-driven model, which means you want to have a relationship with your clients. So my clients, particularly when I was practicing, the same ones that's still there, but I say to them, hey, if you are not active for so many months and I can't get you, that might mean we're going to cancel on our end. So it's a two-way street, right? This is a relationship that you're building. The more you share with me, the more I can support you, whether that's in the in the individual family space, and like when you're dealing with anything around someone's family and life, personal life, or in the professional space. And so really build in ways you can stay top of mind, you can check in. That's messages, that's content, that's one-to-many kind of delivery methodologies that you could use, webinars, workshops, live events in person. But if you are designing it to the journey of the client, there are going to be things that they need to learn or do, and build that into the subscription. So what do you want them to do over the first year? Over the first year, you want them to do these 5 things. No client is, okay. A client that's in super crisis is going to do the 5 things in that moment because they feel like they have to. But the clients that want to be proactive are going to spend times on other things. So you want to build in some cadence of check-in or do or give me something. So example, I have every quarter, the clients will get a message that says, great, give me an update on what's happening in your business. I'm not sending it, it's being sent. They fill out a form, they give an update, then I can then put that into great, here's what's happened, here's what we need to do based off of what you said. And just think through what will be supportive and helpful for your client. So that's how you want to think about providing ongoing value, but it's tied to what the client's goal is, right? Think about what they're looking to achieve, break it down into smaller nuggets, and figure out different ways to deliver that to them that support different learning and delivery methods.
Okay, so I think this is a good time to sort of switch. So I don't think we talked about it before we hit record, but you have sort of moved away from your law practice mostly. You're not really taking new clients, and you've moved to focus more on Fidu, which is a software platform. So I want to hear about that. But before we get there, when you started, this is something that I've always thought about. You know, Fidu is a platform that a lawyer can do subscription services for their clients. But before Fidu, what was there? What did you use? How did you figure out the software delivery platform? Did you just cobble together a bunch of stuff, or how'd you do it?
Yeah, I cobbled together a bunch of stuff. I used legal specific, non-legal specific. So I always had a practice management tool. So for my day one of practice, I had a practice management tool because when I worked in corporate, I traveled for work. I did traditional labor, so I worked in unionized workforces. So I traveled a lot around the country. And that meant I wasn't always in one place, so I needed to be able to access files. So I was able to do my old job that I wanted to do the same thing in my own firm, and the thing that helped me do it was practice management. So I always had practice management, and then it was like, what else do I need? Project management, CRM, and I used the portal of my practice management tool. So I used Clio. I used Clio's portal, and then that allowed me to send a message to a client, but it didn't allow me to do anything else. So everything else was more like, me sending a message, hey, schedule a call, like Calendly came into play. Then I started using Calendly to let them schedule a link. And then I created a website, a hidden page on my website for clients to be able to access to take certain actions. So like I literally did my best to try to put it together, use different checkout tools. I used, I think their LawPay has done subscriptions for many years. You have Confido now, Clio Payments does it. So we have a lot more options today, but back then, I cobbled together and I just figured it out. And I just was like, it was basically only for the client. You just connected me with in a portal, and that was it. And then I managed everything else on my own. And so the goal, what I did now was trying to make some of that management be easier. And actually the part that you said, ongoing value without working ongoing hours. How do you realize that, right, at scale?
And so
the hard part early was to scale, I should say. It's harder to scale when you have to cobble everything together.
Yeah. And so did that lead to Fidu? So maybe you can explain what Fidu is and how that came about and how you got involved.
Sure. So I was practicing for many years, running my practice. I am very highly involved in legal tech. So before Fidu, I've done a lot of legal tech things and ran conferences for lawyers, right, that were trying to implement legal tech. And so I was speaking at a Clio virtual event, and basically the story is my co-founder, we were on the same virtual table, and then he sent me an email after like, hey, like we met before because I tested what he had and gave him my feedback, as I always did. Sorry to all the tech people. I gave all my feedback too, but now that I'm on this side, give me all your feedback. But so, we met before, and then I was doing this virtual event, and we were all kind of on this round table discussing things, and he sent me an email, and he was like, this is not a sales pitch. I have a proposition, like, what if we worked together and built out this tool? And I was like, and I was working, I supported other tools behind the scenes, given my feedback, helped them like think through features. But he was the first person, honestly, who was like, do you want to be a co-founder? And I thought, what's the worst that can happen? That's my motto is, what's the worst that can happen? It's like, I'm already in the no position. So I don't have a tool today. So, that was like towards the end of October, November of like the end of 2020. And then eventually we worked together. We built out a feature we have yet never released, but it was basically to see if we can work together and to see if we can like communicate when we disagreed and whatnot. And it was good. And I was like, okay, it's not, we aren't, tippy-toeing around each other. We're being honest, we're communicating. And so from there, we announced and we launched what is today's version of Fidu. And that's how it kind of came to be. But then how it came to be on the building of Fidu side is that I ran it for all these years. And then I coached and trained it for another 2.5 years before I launched Fidu. I was coaching and consulting on it because people kept on tagging me, and I was doing it all for free. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should like start coaching and training. But I really wanted, anyway, I had all my like hangups around that. And then I moved to this. So I had a model, I had a framework. We moved that into a platform style so that all the things that I did from designing a subscription to now delivering a subscription sits truly today, actually, it sits inside of Fidu.
And so your firm was basically like R&D department. You're like
Yes. And so the reason when we were talking earlier, July 1st, I put my firm on hiatus and I stopped taking new clients. And before that, it was the R&D. It kept on being the R&D space for Fidu. So it's not that I guess it's fully not, because I still have clients, subscription clients. Tag, see, that's how that works. It's amazing. They didn't want to go, even though I told them, but I gave them the option, and I raised prices. So
Wow.
There you go. But yeah, so what was I going with that? Yes, it provided the R&D for the last couple of years, and then it still will do that, but we have customers now and we can support them, and it goes outside of me, and we can, I can dream and vision things that I could have never thought were possible, particularly with tech today.
Real quick, thanks for listening. If you're getting any value out of this podcast, please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. It would really mean a lot to me. Now back to the show. Okay, so a couple questions like logistically. So you were basically running or operating 2 businesses at the same time, and 2 very different businesses. I mean, they complement each other, but they're very different. Software company is very different than a law firm.
Yes.
It
was actually 3. 3 different businesses. Yeah.
What was the third? Is that still going?
That one is not a scaled business. It's a passion project. It's just its own business. So I have a community for legal professionals that do things differently. So it's a small community for legal professionals, but that was my small one.
Running one business is enough. How do you do 2 or 3? How do you manage it? I mean, how did you do that? And I'm seriously, I'm curious. How did you manage
almost burning out. I mean, if we're being honest, it was too much. I am a high achiever. My strengths, one of my top 5s is high achiever, learner, belief, input, strategic. I might have forgotten one, whatever, but I can push through. That is not a healthy way of operating, but I can. And I think in the beginning, I don't identify myself as a lawyer, I need to hold that title. What I really loved, and I came to this conclusion too, as I was working through kind of wrapping up the firm, that I love the business side. I love the ops. I love the watching my operational idea come to fruition. It was fun, right? And then I made it work. But doing it was a lot, right? It was a lot. It was stretching myself too thin, quite honestly. And in 2021, when we announced Fidu, I also launched a podcast, did 8 episodes. My last episode, not intentionally being my last episode, but the last one was Permission to Pause. And I think that was me talking to myself because it was just too much, right? And then for the last 4 years, running 3 businesses has been a lot, but I learned a lot along the way. I would not recommend somebody do that at all. But at least for me, the firm and Fidu fed each other, and that helped, right? I could test things. It was one of the things that was helpful, because when we are building Fidu, and especially the earlier stages of us building Fidu, I'm I wanted to do this thing. This is what actually you need on the other side. And so my clients knew I was building it, and my clients gave me feedback as a client. So it was really nice because it was a full ecosystem where I had a team at the time. My team members would give feedback, then my clients would give feedback. And so, I would probably do Fidu and firm again. I wouldn't do all 3 though.
Yeah. So your firm is already sort of innovative and different than most law firms, but it is a law firm still. And a software company is in a business. It's just much different. And the things, and I've been in business, I've sort of done some software stuff and been in some startups and some businesses that are not law. And I've learned a ton. I mean, it's just so much that I never saw in these traditional law firms. I'm curious what sort of learnings that maybe you've had in these non-law businesses that maybe could translate, or maybe that lawyer owners maybe need to hear, hey, you can do things a little differently. Do you have any of those you can tell us about?
And I'll say this, from the beginning, I never operated my business like a firm. I always operated it as best as I could like a business. And so there were things that translated, but just I think I would love to see more law firms do is really work on having a proper business funnel, right? I don't think a lot of law firms spend enough time on what we think is nurture. What they think is nurture is actually in the sales part of the process and not in the marketing and truly nurturing side. So I see a lot more of that happening. I think there's a lot more conversations about business models and different business model design outside of firms. So inside of the SaaS space, Of course, SaaS, we're software as a service. So we're all doing this kind of subscription model, but being creative about what's happening behind the scenes, more sharing is happening there. But what are some other things that I think, my firm operated a lot like it. So, okay, I'll just say what my firm has always had, like I said, some of those a more interesting tech stack than I think. I love, just as a pet peeve of mine, lawyers to stop using intake. It's just like, it's sales. I don't know, and then use onboarding. Let's use the proper terminologies that allow for us to learn from other industries and see what the equivalent is, and then see, okay, what are they doing there? What should we be doing? I think lawyers do a terrible job of onboarding. I think what I would learn from SaaS in particular, is this idea of the onboarding process. So when you sell somebody, the first thing you do is, you get them into your funnel, you've closed the sale, but that's not where it ends. Then in tech, you have to activate them, right? And get them kind of beyond the sale. You've sold the promise, they've bought the promise, now they're in the platform. Now you want them to actually use it and see the value ongoing month after month. This is something we're always working on in Fidu. You win some, you lose some, but you want to work on this activation piece. So in law firm world, that's your onboarding, and then delivery to keep in retention. Because we're so transactional in law, we've never thought about retention as much. And so I think thinking about that full life cycle, particularly sales, activation, retention, referral, we think sales, referral. The rest of it happens, but it's not strategic, it's not thoughtful, it's not designed, it's not intentional. There's a lot of that I've learned a lot. And then I would say maybe some more numbers, right? Yes, we talked earlier about churn. So running a SaaS business, I had to think about, these other numbers, churn and monthly recurring revenue. I knew how much my clients generally spent, but using the actual terms of art, like lifetime value, like customer acquisition or client acquisition costs in our world, to help you think, am I running a solid business? So I know we don't love to hear numbers, but we're business owners. So we have to hear the numbers. And I don't think you need to be a CPA or accounting expert, but there are some core metrics that you can find to be your North Star of your business that will help you. And being in a SaaS business now just elevates that conversation more. So what is the journey of a client? And then what we'll call unit economics? That's what you will hear. So go Google unit economics, and then you'll be like, oh, I need to know these. It sounds a lot, but it's not that much. What are the unit economics? And then you will build a much better sustainable business. And you'll say, why am I billing by the hour? Because that's not good for my unit economics. I need to find a better way. So maybe those things.
Oh, that's great advice. And the thing I'll say too, look, so I was an engineering major undergrad, so math's okay with me. But if you look at unless you grew up in a business as a kid, no one graduated college or whatever knowing how to do business. And lawyers almost use it as a crutch. Oh, they didn't teach us business, so I'm just going to be ignorant about business. No. Even all the successful business people we represent, they had to learn it too. So it's you can learn it. So yeah, I think the sort of the onboarding, the cycle you went through, I think that's huge. I'm hearing more people talk about, client journey, client experience. That's some of that, and lawyers are notoriously bad at that. I mean, we're just, like you said, it's very transactional. But let's shift back to Fidu itself. So tell me about the platform. So before you cobble together all these things, is Fidu, if I'm going to run a subscription service as a lawyer, is it meant to replace all those things that you cobbled together and be sort of the unifying platform, or is it just a piece?
It's meant to be a part of the platform. Some of our customers use Fidu as a standalone and do everything, but what Fidu focuses on today is on the client experience, right? So that client journey conversation that we're having, because in a subscription model, retaining clients is the name of the game, right? You don't want to spend all this money on bringing a client in, and then that same client leaves in 2 months, or a month, right? That's not what you're looking for. You're looking to have some longevity to that relationship that you can predict and then spend against, right? Because you're spending less to acquire them than they are spending to work with you. So we focus on the client experience. So think of Fidu as the place that really replaces today somewhat of a client portal, but not only that, and some of your back-end operations. So portal, the way a knowledge hub, some initial document generation. What Fidu does that no other platform does is it is the place where clients come into and have access to resources and materials designed and curated by the firm. So the firm decides what the client can see and what they can't see, but it's all based off the firm's standards and their templates and their knowledge. And it's accessible to the client wherever they're at, from their phone or from the internet. It's a mobile device, but that's mobile friendly. I mean, it's a web platform that's mobile friendly. And so what you do is you sign up and you integrate it back with a practice management tool or a project management tool. And it's meant to help the client stay up to date on what's happening and then actually deliver the ongoing value through a lot of different ways, however you've designed it, at scale. So we do subscription management, flat fee management, client communication, client status communication, content and knowledge sharing. And then we do other AI tools to help with delivery of your final work product and whatnot so that it becomes the full experience. Because we do a lot of things that aren't focused on the experience side. It's just simply, here's your document. Great. Go forth and conquer. We really want to make it valuable for the client so that they come back month after month without you having to do all the things to make them come back. So the platform is built on trying to make the platform as sticky for your client and as easy for you to systematize and deliver your back-end operations.
Okay, so I can create, let's say, a resource library, and I'm just going to make up some stuff. So I could say, here are some form documents you may want to use. I could also put a library of videos in there that they can access at any time.
Yep.
So if I had, let's say I had 3 different levels or 2 different levels of subscription, and could I go into Fidu and say, all right, level 1, you only get access to this thing. Level 2, you get access to these 2 things. And level 3, you get access to everything. You can set all that up?
Correct. Exactly. So, and the idea is like each level might have some of the same baseline resources that you can reuse across all levels. So it's not that you have to recreate them all the time. So yeah, you can sell it. If they only have access to 2 things, but they can buy something else, they can buy it inside a platform. So you can do upsells inside a platform.
Oh, wow.
So the client that's paying you $100 might now want to pay that $1,000 agreement. They can do that from inside of the platform, and then it'll follow your process to collect information or to tell the client to do this thing because there's automations behind it to help you deliver it. But we start from the design of your subscription or flat fee all the way through the delivery of it. So with the click of a link, you can onboard a client. They can sign up for an account, pay you, onboard, get onboarded into the platform, all from a design process that you set up once and you template. And then the client goes through. And then the times where you need to check in, because you've built it to check in that way, like where the human touch needs to be, the human touch comes in. And where you don't need it to be, Fidu can do it for you, or you tell the clients to do things in a timed fashion. So however you would run a process now, you would run some of that inside of Fidu, and some of it you would maintain in the tools that you use today.
And so you said it's sort of like a portal too. So you can communicate, you can do probably automated communications, but then go in and say, all right, I'm going to actually do this one communication. And so I assume you want to force or encourage the clients to use that to communicate versus, hey, I'm going to text you over here or email you over here. Is that
correct? Our idea today, and this is one interface, it won't be the only interface. I think we all know we all have different interfaces, but we focus on one for now, same for you, so that you're not bringing the client everywhere. So you bring the client for the client's perspective, it's a portal. They come in, this is where they communicate with you. This is where they access legal services. This is where they buy more legal services. This is where they see how many more document reviews they have left in their plan. If they finish it out for the month, they can't do any unless they pay more. They get access to that clearly without having you answer the questions. They can see it in their dashboard. For the legal team, it's all the templates and way that they operate so that you don't have to handhold a client through every step of the way, but you can still provide high value, curated legal services that respond to your standards and your processes in a streamlined and scalable way. So, yes.
That sounds really cool. And when we get off, I'm going to talk to you some more about this.
Yes, do it. We just released some really dope features that, like I said, from designing it, so you can go in platform, tell us about your client, tell us about your business, and tell us about the services you want, and we will build a visual representation of your flat fee or your subscription. And then if you like it, we will build your initial framework. So like you don't even have to spend the time building out in Fidu unless you really want to. And then you can tweak it and then go to sell it, right, with a click of a button.
Okay, so let's talk about, you've already got a bunch of features, you've built it out, looking down the road, what's sort of the roadmap? Where's this thing going? What are you guys looking to do with it?
Yeah, I mean, what our big vision is to end the billable hour for good. Surprise, surprise, right? I would love to provide a pathway for every legal team to stop doing that so they can serve this huge gap in the market. Today's legal market looks like we serve either DIY services, which is not what not what folks do that are founding partners, right? You do done for you services, which are usually very curated, very custom, meant for the high net worth or revenue generating company. There's everyone in the middle that still needs it, and some of those middle look like lawyers too, right? That need access to services that needs to be somewhere in between that. It's curated, but not maybe as custom, right? That isn't just templatized, but it has nuance of professional services. So that's where we come in. So continue to expand how we leverage AI, continuing to make it easier for you to show up, thinking through what is it like to work with different types of clients, whether some are neurodivergent, some are high anxiety, like taking those psychodemographics into place, thinking about what it looks like to really reimagine how you do work and what the delivery is. Our thought is you should still have human touch, and how can you create the right human touch without burning yourself out? And so we're working on solving that while helping you not bill by the hour. And so, a lot more AI, of course, as you would expect, but we don't tag ourselves as an AI platform because I fundamentally believe it's just a tool. It's just the thing that everything has. Instead, we still focus on helping you just deliver an amazing client experience. That's what gets people to come back. That's what gets them to refer out. And that's our goal in everything that we do. And sure, we leverage Gen AI tools and whatever next tool that's out and about to grow your business. But that's kind of what we do. So today we provide 360 support. We do training, we do weekly office hours, we do training, we do subscription weeks, we do all the things to help people get out of their own way and just start imperfectly.
They've been calling for the death of billable hour for decades now. And I feel like we're finally on the cusp of maybe it really happening. And so you mentioned this earlier, and I think you sort of touched on it there too, but as part of your work with Fidu, so again, I'm a lawyer out there that's really interested in exploring or designing a subscription service. Do you guys also consult on that, Fidu, or would that be you individually, or is it someone else?
Yeah, depends. So if truly private, then I'm in there. But I would say before you came to me, Fidu provides a lot of opportunities. So we have our platform, which includes all features. You can get access to that for our platform price. And then from there, we have an additional tier that is for those who want additional deeper dive training. And then we have a build tier where we'll be your builder behind the scenes that helps you build it out. And that includes some of that training. So if you're looking to design, our hope is that you can design without needing me to intervene. That is if you want that. We want to have the platform and be able to support people at scale at our platform level, at our first base price. You go on our website, you see our price. That's what we want to allow for everyone to get. And we have an AI builder inside of the platform now. You can design it in platform without having to interact with me, right? But we're there, right? I think to make this be something that transforms the industry, it shouldn't be a person-centered, right? It needs to be something like, if I believe what I said earlier to everyone, that what I do is not so that it can be standardized, it can be processed out, it can be repeated and replicated at scale. That's what we did for how I coach and train. We did that in the service builder. And so sure, you can get it, but my first stop is try our service builder, see what it gets you. If you need more, sure, of course we'll continue to improve it. But we want people to do it with or without my support or the Team Fidu support.
So I think maybe earlier, maybe I misheard you, but did you say there's some training coming up? And then just for timestamp purposes, this is sort of early July 2025. Yeah. If you want to plug anything with Fidu or this coming up, anybody that might be interested, this will probably drop in a couple weeks.
Yeah, so we're still rocking and rolling with our flat fee series. So we have a flat fee summer series for 2025 that we're doing. We'll probably bring that back at some point. But outside of that, we do subscription week. So starting in the fall, we will pick back up our subscription week flow, and it's a 5-day live event where we take you from design to launch. And as we continue to add more features, that just gets faster and faster. So we help you think about how to design it, then we help you create the link to sell it, then we help you create the projects to deliver it, and then we help you think through, okay, what does it take to actually get this out and launch it? So we do that. Typically, it's included with the Fidu subscription. So if you don't want to be a Fidu customer, there's like a one-time pay usually that's associated with it. But yeah, that's coming up. But just reach out. We are here to change this industry, and it's not today. Fidu is the platform that does it. I don't know any other platform that does what we do. And to explain it sometimes is harder than to see it, and I need to probably do better explaining it sometimes. But if you see it in action, you'll see the opportunity that exists to move from billing by the hour to actually delivering something at scale. And that's what we're helping you do at any of our trainings, our subscription weeks, our office hours. We are there to support every single person, even if they're not a Fidu customer, to start out. So.
And I'm not sure we said it, but Fidu is Fidu.
Yes, Fidu legal.com is how you can find us.
Okay, cool. So, as is clear from this conversation and others that I've heard, I mean, you've been an innovator for quite a long time. I mean, your mindset is different than most lawyers. But, any advice out there that you would give to law firm owners, as they're starting firms, trying to grow their firms, from a mindset perspective, as they look forward in the future with AI and other things, any advice you might give?
Yeah, I think first, read your ethics, right? Because for me, ethics, I read them early, can keep up with them. They are not an impediment. They are design constraint, right? Understand what that is so you don't get caught in this, I can't do it, but understand what your parameters are, right? So first, because I find sometimes that becomes a roadblock. Well, we're not allowed to do that. Do you know that for sure? Did you read it? Or did someone tell you that, right? So then my second would be commit to just doing it differently. And there's going to be naysayers, so what, right? I'll do a book recommendation, Being is the New Doing by Radiah Rhodes. So again, Being is the New Doing by Radiah Rhodes. It's a short read. It's about elevating your intention, your commitment, how you show up to get the thing done. I think that is just like to move through the mindset blocks and the fears that might stop you from doing something that doesn't look like what other people are doing. And then, just launch one, right? Just get out there, launch one. You don't have to have it fully built out. You just need to talk to the client to see what they want and then go from there. I know I'm not telling you to go launch 1,000, right? But what I'm saying is launch one. Talk to 1, 2, 5 clients. Be clear and tell them, I want to try something different. This is what I'm interested in. I'd love to get your real life feedback, right? There are going to be bumps. I'm not exactly, this is what I'm thinking. But what I want to do is help me co-design it. Yes, this is paid. It's not free, right? But you're going to get a ton of value in exchange for helping me design this in the best way. So if you're stuck, don't design it on your own. Get it out there, pitch the thing, and then get support when you feel like it's not working. We're here. There's other people that talk about subscriptions. Go to them, but find if you're staying stuck, it's something that's not impossible. In fact, I think it's a lot easier. I think people overcomplicate pricing. Don't do that to yourself. Just get out there.
I think that is it. Lawyers are so scared of making a mistake, but you just got to push something out there and see what happens. It's not going to work. It's not going to be perfect. It's like the first time you did a trial or the first time you did a contract, compared to what you did, 10 years later, you're way better at it now, but you just got to throw something out there. And you're right. I think one thing, not everything all at once.
Yeah, not everything all at once. Don't do it yourself. And don't be like me and try to run 1 million businesses. Don't do it.
Yeah, so this has been great. I want to be respectful of your time. So thanks for coming on. We've talked a little bit about vision, but I always like to ask this question too. What is your vision for the next 10, 15 years for you, for any of your businesses, whatever? It can be, life, it can be business, whatever it is.
Yeah, I hope if Fidu reaches the heights that I want, either we are leading this industry in ways that completely transformed how we show up for our clients and that allow for my goal is to solve the access to justice gap with not nonprofit services, but actually for-profit. That's a win-win on both sides. So Fidu to really support closing that justice gap. And then personally, it just looks like continue to spend more time with my family. Like I have a 99-year-old grandfather that I know probably in 10 years won't be here. So for the next couple of years, make the memories that I can reflect back on in 10 and 15 years with him and then other family members, because I didn't do this. I didn't start a business. I didn't start my firm to necessarily be a multimillionaire or something. Tech is a different world, so I know it has the opportunity to change my life significantly. But if it does, I hope it allows for me also to spend time with the people that I love and the family and friends that I've made along the way.
That's a great way to end it right there. So, Kimberly, thank you for coming on. For people out there that want to learn about Fidu or just talk to you about help with designing a subscription or just talk to you about whatever, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, just reach out. We're on social. We're Fidu app across social media platforms. So at FIDU APP. We used to be Fidu Legal, so you'll see it, but use Fidu app. And then personally at K Bennett Law. That's my personal handle. But reach out to us, fidulegal.com. And whatever it is, a question, a roadblock, we do so many free online virtual events that we're here to support you with a question, a next step, or whatnot. So reach out.
And you still do a lot of speaking, right? Are you on the circuit still?
Oh, yes. I'm still on the circuit. I have a speaking engagement next week. I have, I think, 3 this month or something, or 4 this month I had already. I don't know. I don't even know what day. I've done 1 already, 2, I think I have 4 this month. And then maybe 1 or 2 next month and 3 in September. So yes.
So the chances are good you may be coming through their town. So
that's right. I might see you in a town. And if I am, I might be doing a little pop-up event. So stay tuned.
All right. Well, thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Founding Partner Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can also connect with Jonathan on LinkedIn and check out the show notes with links to resources mentioned throughout our discussion by visiting www.lawfirmgc.com. We'll see you next time for more origin stories and insights from successful law firm founders.